Today we're going to talk about graphing inequalities. And inequalities are mathematical expressions that contain one of these four symbols down here. If you remember from before, these two symbols should look familiar. This symbol means greater than. It means whatever's on this side is greater than whatever's on this side. So this one is greater than. The one right below it we've worked with before, and this one means less than. Now these other two may be a little bit newer to some of you. This one means greater than or equal to. What that means is that whatever is on this side is greater than whatever's on this side, but it could also be true if it was equal to what is on this side. So this is greater than or equal to. And this last one down here, same thing. Looks like the less than sign, but it's got a line under it. It is less than or equal to. So those are the four signs we'll be using today when we graph these inequalities. So let's look at a few of them. To graph inequalities, we're going to use a number line. So here's the number line. And the graph is going to help you visualize which numbers make this inequality true. So here I have x is greater than 10. Now you don't have to put every single number on the number line. You really just need to put a few around the number you're using. Well, obviously I'm going to need 10 on here. So I'm going to put 10 on my number line. And maybe 9, maybe 8, and that should be enough, really. Just a few numbers so you know where you're at. And what this is, and maybe one above it too. What this says is x is greater than 10. What that means is any value that makes this equation true, this inequality true, is going to be greater than 10. So here's my 10, and I'm going to put an open circle at it. The open circle means that it is 10 is not included in the numbers that solve this inequality. 10 is not greater than 10. So we put an open circle there, but anything bigger than 10 will make this true. So the arrow kind of represents my x. This is any number that makes this true. Anything greater than 10 will make this true. Even like 10.1 will make it true. So that is how we graph greater than 10. X is greater than 10. Now we have x is less than 4. Same thing again. I'm just going to put in a few numbers here. I'm going to put in 3, 4, and 5. Now in this case, the x, the values that are going to be that make this inequality true, are going to be smaller than 4. So once again, I check, and my sign is less than. So I'm going to use an open circle to represent the less than. That means that 4 is not part of the solution set, but anything smaller than 4 is less than this. It's part of the solution set. So I'm going to draw my arrow going this way. That is not the world's best arrow, but you get the idea. Okay? So that is graphing greater than and less than. And remember, we use the open circle for that, just to put a few of the numbers on the number line. You don't have to make a whole complete number line. All right, let's check out those other two newer ones. This says that x is greater than or equal to 5. So again, I'm going to go to my number line, and I'm going to put in just a few numbers. Don't have to put in a whole bunch. So I'm going to have 4, 5, 6 here. Now in this case, the solutions or the values for x that make this true can be greater than 5 or equal to 5. So what's different about these greater than or equal to ones is we put a solid dot there, a solid circle. We fill it in because that means that 5 can also be one of the solutions to this inequality. And anything greater than 5 will solve this, and it will be true in this inequality. So I make my arrow going this way. These are all of the values that are greater than or equal to 5. So now we have graphed x is greater than or equal to 5. And the last example here, x is less than or equal to negative 3. So we can use this with negatives too. So I'm going to put a few negatives here. I'm going to put negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, just to have some stuff on either side of it. And for this one, the solution for this inequality is any number that is less than or equal to negative 3. So since it can be equal to it, I'm also going to put a solid dot on on the 3, and then I'm going to draw my arrow to all the values that are less than negative 3. Well, the numbers that are less than negative 3 are down this way. So I'm going to draw my arrow this way because this shows all of the values that are less than negative 3. So there we have graphed the two inequalities that have the greater than or equal to and the less than or equal to signs. All right, and this last slide is writing inequalities from a graph. So now I have the graph and I just have to figure out what my inequality is. And remember I told you the arrow kind of represents your x values, all the values that make it true. So I know my number is going to be negative 1. So what I know here about x is all my red values here are all greater than negative 1. That not only are they greater than it, do you see that this is a solid circle? That means that x can be greater than or equal to negative 1. So that is the written inequality for this graph. X is greater than or equal to negative 1. And now this last one, very similar. I have x, and here's all my x values here, and they are smaller than 2. But if you notice here, this is an open circle. So I'm not going to have the equal to sign because 2 does not satisfy this inequality. So x is less than 2. And that is how we graph the inequality.